one of the words we use a lot is selfing. Yeah, and so selfing is a mental process. It's an activity. It's what I call the accumulation of all that language, thought language up there. Yeah, that streaming going on, I would say, is selfing. And the selfing implies, if you're hearing it, it implies, it infers, it presupposes, it assumes that there's a self, that you're a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. Yeah, a thing, but an independent, separate thing. That's what selfing does. So the selfing implies it, insinuates it, assumes it, presupposes it, and if what we are is listening to it with interest, it has the ability to sort of convince that which we are in a way to take ourselves to be a body. So now the big M mind, it's sort of like the big camera looks through the small camera, and then through looking through the small camera, it takes itself to be the small camera, and therefore it forgets its big camera qualities, but they never go. They're always available, but they're not seemingly accessible because they're identified with the small camera. Yes? So the whole point isn't to try to make the small camera better and add new lenses to small camera. It's just recognizing you're not the small camera. And then, yeah, then you would see just as you always have the ability to see, but now it would be applicable. You would be aware of being aware, let's say. Yeah. So the selfing is sort of assuming we're a body. Yeah? So the thought system is talking about you, to you, and it talks and it implies that you have a lot to do with a lot of stuff you have nothing to do with all day. Yeah, and I always use the example of hair because I hadn't been back east for a while. I went back and the people came in. The first person came in had seen me before talks, and he says, "Paul, you're growing your hair." So I said, "I've been growing my hair and I'm doing a pretty good job, you know." And he was sort of going bald, and I said, "You're not doing well, man." You know, I joined a hair growing group, and I grow it a lot better when I'm with others, you know. And look, I got the you know, it's looking great, and it keeps on looking great. Goes on and on. But see, I'm not for the hair to grow. All that has to happen is not to cut it, yeah. So I'm not growing the hair. So like the same thing, my knee, I had a trouble with the knee in the water, and it created a big situation. So in the language up here, how it would be stated would, I hurt my knee. Like I went out in the water with a hammer and I whammed it and I hurt my knee. Because it does. It sounds like I did it, doesn't it? I hurt my knee. It's like a proclamation of being the doer of something I had nothing to do with. Yeah, this is going on all day. All day. This is the selfing. The selfing is like a giant advertising. It's like if you were living in this lovely place and this whole window was surrounded with an advertising, like one of those ticker tape advertisements, where it was all about you all day. All day, you look this way, all day, everywhere you look, you'd see this little thing going all these windows about you. That's what selfing's like. It's like you're a planet and you've got this horizontal moon, which is a fake moon, but the fake moon is moving so fast it looks like all there is moon. Yeah, that's the selfing. That implies, assumes, infers, presupposes that you're a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, a body. And that becomes the starting point of all of its observations, all of its critiquing, all of its reporting, all of its news flashes, all of its headlines, yes? Is framed as you're a body. Okay. So the selfing cannot, it cannot create a body, it can't even make a body, but it can assume and presuppose, and then the mind itself makes the seeming body, yeah? It pictures it. So if you look at the thought system, your own experience of the thought system, the thoughts picture you as a body. So when you're when you're sitting here and the thought system thinks about a you, we call it you, but it's a you. It's just this object called the body. When it thinks about you in the past, it's not remembering you in the past, it's remembering you as a body now. Yeah? So the thought system, when it goes into the past to picture you in the past, to go over what you did or didn't do, or what would have been better if you didn't do, or all that stuff, it pictures you as a body. Yeah? And so when we say, I'm remembering the past, but the remembering of the past can only happen now. There's no remembering in the past, there's just remembering now about this mythical place called the past, where you're seen as a body, because you couldn't remember yourself as a spirit in the past. First of all, the ever-presence-ness of the spirit would override that immediately, but you can't picture yourself as a spirit years ago, yeah? Because you can't picture a spirit. You can't see it. It's not a thing, yeah? And so, all right, and then the thought system also spends a lot of time in the seeming future, and when it thinks about what's going to happen to you in the future, that things are going to happen to is a body. Pictures you as a body getting cancer, pictures you as getting married as a body, it's all like that. So when you're thinking in the future, and maybe you're worrying or you're just speculating, that speculation's effects aren't happening in the future, they're happening now. Yeah, so let's say if you're worried that bad things are going to be happening, the contraction will happen now, not in the future, yeah? In other words, here, most people that come to a talk, if they're flipping out, it's usually not about the day they're in, it's about last week or next week. Yeah? So the mental state and the selfing, if it's paid attention to, if it's devoted to, and the devotion comes being identified as that body that's being thought about all the time. Yeah? Because most people would not go into the past to think about Stanley unless they were married to Stanley once, or they wanted to be a reason to be right about Stanley. You won't be sitting on a Sunday morning thinking, well, if Stanley wouldn't have made that left turn 5 years ago, I bet his whole life would have been so much better. But there'd be no interest to go there because it's about Stanley. But what causes us to keep going into the tomorrow and yesterday, is because it's about us, yeah? Us as a body, not about us as what we are, but as us as what we're not. So it's almost like an object of idolatry, yeah? So we worship us yesterday and tomorrow, and then that worshiping of us yesterday and tomorrow produces a sense of us being a body now, yeah? Because when the self cannot appear here without appearing in the past and the future. It doesn't have any self-generating presence, yeah? It has to be remembered, and it has to be thought about and remembered in the future to seemingly be so now, which is a lot of freaking work. So when you're doing something you really love to do, or you're caught in one of those moments where the elements or whatever's happening overwhelm your constant attention to yesterday, tomorrow, like if you're in an accident or something, a lot of times when people are in accidents, there's like no thinking there, yeah? Because of the aliveness of the moment, and they're actually quite clear, yeah? And also time seems to slow up. I mean, I remember I hydroplaned on a mountain road once, and it was at night, raining, and it wasn't a good move, you know? And I didn't hydroplane. It was a hydroplaning. I did not hydroplane. I don't know how to hydroplane, but the car started spinning. And as it started spinning, everything came very slow. And I was sitting there, and my head just went, I'll know how bad it is when I hit the guardrail. And it was like it was like an eternity. And it just hit it very light. And then there was action after that, but it was like a big suspension. So the selfing is easily thrown off its tracks when your interest and attention is very attentive and interested in something else. Yeah? like if you're surfing, or let's say sex or love, or doing something you love, or whatever, yeah? When that interest and attention isn't in the preoccupation with selfing, there won't be any sense of self. Now, the sense of self will arise after that attentiveness is moved and say, I was the one that was there. It's sort of like with epiphanies, you know? People talk a lot about epiphanies, and whatever you want to believe it is or whatever, but it's sort of like a suspension of the linear story, yeah? And it sort of comes, you don't really make reservations for it, do you? You know, it's sort of like a surprise, yeah? I mean, there's not like a spiritual vacation that promises 3 epiphanies, you know? Come to our lovely resort, you'll get massage, you'll see a teacher, maybe a miracle or 2, and at least 3 epiphanies before you leave or your money back. You know, it can't be codified or made into a business yet. Maybe it will be, but they can't get their hands on it yet because it comes in unheralded, and it stops the linear story, yeah, of selfing. You're there completely, yeah, but the selfing gets stopped, because selfing is an activity that can get stopped. And when selfing gets stopped, something continues. That's what you are. That's what I am, is that which continues when selfing stops. We're prior to selfing. So there's the selfing. So, all right, so something happens and we call it an epiphany. And I guarantee you, the moment it seems to end is the moment thoughts arise and say, where it's, I'm having an epiphany. As soon as there's the claiming of the epiphany, it's the end of the epiphany. You don't see it. You don't see, as soon as a selfing arrives to get that, it's gone. That's a principle. That's not a random occurrence that you're the only person that ever missed your own epiphany. The selfing always misses the epiphany. That's the epiphany. It's the absence of selfing's effects. It's the absence of selfing's effects, yeah? And that once the selfing regroups, which it's pretty resilient, it will arise and claim the epiphany, and it will say, I had an epiphany. And then it will call other people who you think had epiphanies, and then you'll have your little spiritual mantle, and you'll put your big freaking epiphany up there, and you'll call your friend, hey, look at this mama I got there. Man, mine was 4 hours. Unbelievable epiphany. You'll call like the 800 epiphany number. I want to report a huge epiphany in Toronto, the 8th floor at wherever we are. It's really a big one. Put it out the news. And my name's Paul Hedderman. I'm definitely having it. That's the whole thing. The best times of our life is when we're not in it. They are the best freaking times. Playing music or, whatever. When your interest and attention, instead of being displaced and enslaved to a freaking dead preoccupation, to constantly be like the bridesmaid to all these thoughts about you, yeah? It's so incredible that every day something, as you're walking, and you can be totally seemingly into selfing, and then you'll see like, something will catch your eye, and it won't take any time to be out of the selfing. It's not a long, drawn-out process. It happens immediately. So how in are you in if you can be out so incredibly quickly? Like when for years I've been doing these things, yeah, and before I was doing recovery. And every time I had this one seat assignment, every Monday I gave a talk in San Francisco for like 16 years, anytime I was in San Francisco. So that's a lot of Mondays, a lot of freaking Mondays. And a lot of things happened on those different Mondays. Sometimes, at one point, I was waiting to hear if I had AIDS because I was a drug user when I first came in recovery. Back then, it took 3 weeks to get the report back. My fairy princess broke up with me 2 minutes before the talk. I was very ill, all these things. And as soon as I sat down and I was willing to be the hose, when that water went through, all of my previous conditions were totally forgotten, as if they had never happened. for that hour. I mean, guaranteed, 1,000% batting average. Every freaking time I went in, no matter what I came in with, it all got dismissed because the interest and attention got funneled into such a strong sense of bah, that all of that, which is the product of yesterday and tomorrow and all of these things, it's all a product of this first intention and interest, really, just had no sign of any kind of effect. How real could they have been if they could have disappeared so easily? These are the hints you need to, I'm humbly suggesting to follow. When you read something or something is said and you feel that flag up there starts to unfurl, let it unfurl. You don't have to blow it with the winds of thoughts. That fucking contracts the flag. Just let it in. Let it roll over and see. That's what happened with me. One of the first ones that occurred was I went to the first talk like this. One of the first talks, and a lady, I liked the space immediately. I sat in there, and then I said, when I came in here, I was checking out my physical conditions, emotional, mental conditions. But I had an assumption that it was me seeing all those conditions. And now just being in this room, I realized that me is a mental condition, saying it's seeing all the other conditions. Yeah? It was sort of like my lens came in with at 35 opening, and it had been like that, and maybe every once in a while you'd have experiences to open a little, but it would always go back to, let's say, the 35 opening. And so you assume that's it, yeah? This is as big as life's gonna be with big experience, but always this is the norm. But then that opened up, yeah? And so I saw a whole lot more without efforting or thought. It just, because the seeing is broadly, hugely 360. There's just things in the way. It's not that your seeing is limited, it's something is limiting your seeing, yeah? It's not that seeing is limited, it's something limits your seeing, seemingly. It only can appear to be true and false. Any impediment has no ability to impede unless you believe it can. That's the situation. That's the role we play here as mind, yeah? We give everything all the meaning it has. So if there's an impediment in some form or another, there's been a meaning given from here to that to give it the power to impede us. When you see through that, it was never there. It's always been 360 seeing. Seeing, like awareness, not seeing this, but seeing. Yeah. So the impediments we get, self-centeredness is the prefabricated one. It takes this huge sky and funnels it into a telescopic vision, which is everything's happening to me. You know what I mean? Instead of life, it's not the sense of life is happening is lost, and now it's life's happening to me. That's the reference. That's an interpretation. That is not the event. The event is life is happening, if you want to even say that. But the interpretation is life's happening to me. That's like, here's this space of mind, and now this space of mind has looked through a very small telescope, and now this is what it gets to see. Defined by what it's looking through, not defined by its seeing. Its seeing is still 360 degrees, but because it's looking through this one thing, yeah? And when it takes itself to be this thing, it doesn't have the possibility it could just go like this isn't there anymore, because you're identified with this. So now your seeing, which is like this, is now saddled by this, yeah? So the possibility of being inherently okay gets translated as I will be okay maybe if I do something, or I was okay, yeah? All the inherent immediacy of possibilities now get stretched in time, and it's usually sooner or later all up to you. You've got to do something, or you did something to lose it. It's all self-centeredness. It's all being used to keep pointing to the imaginary one. Yeah. This is like, all right, instead of trying to, I'm gonna make myself clearer, I'm gonna become more seeing, just see if you're the camera, see if you're the telescope. If you're not, when you back off, guess what? It's always been available, it's just been funneled this. It's called self-centeredness. That's a myopic way of seeing things here. It's not even seeing anymore, it's a form of looking. And we're saddled with it. The mental state sees us as a body. It sees us as a self, and the whole system is centered on self. So the thought system, everything is being used to reinforce, to refer, and to constantly keep that condition of self-centeredness in place against all possible invitations, because whatever you hear, it's going to be the one that catches the message. It's like that story with the simple thing we always use. It's from an old Papaji story about well, I took it to another way. Let's just say there's these sheep. There's a herd of sheep. And some of the young sheep are sort of pissed off about being a sheep. They don't want to be used for a sweater again. They don't want to, they're sick of buying, and chewing cud. They think there's possibilities for something better, yes? So they're sort of like, and so here's all it's sort of like, and so they fall upon a book about one lion, and it has some pictures in there. And they read the qualities of a lion. They say, man, I'd love to have those qualities. You know what I mean? I draw, no one would touch me, everything like that. So and a number of the dissatisfied sheep get together and they get a little room and they're going to have a meeting about becoming like a lion. So they cut out those pictures, put them in nice frames, they get candles, and they go and they look at these lions and they start getting their hair straightened and and they have roaring lessons at 11 and Bernie's leading them. He's just a sheep anyway, but they're all barring, but you're sounding better. You're getting close to a roar. Keep it going. And they're praying to the lion. Oh, please, great lion, please bestow me with some of your characteristics or whatever. But the point is, the whole adoring, the whole movement to the practices are all based on a fact that may not be a fact. If they're not a sheep, and maybe they are a lion, what's the point in becoming one? Wouldn't the becoming of a lion actually reaffirm the identity of being a sheep? You don't see how the mental state would use that? All your desires, which seem very noble and beautiful, to become like a lion, they would be thwarted or used by the mental state to reaffirm the fact, which isn't a fact, that you're a sheep. That's the dilemma here. That's what's happening in most cases. We're not seeing that we've been displaced, that our starting point has been fabricated. That which we are, which is being, awareness, whatever you want to call it, spirit, but let's say it's present tense usually, yes? And so if it's so much in the moment, that so much in the moment is the timelessness. See, the timelessness is being hid every moment of time, because every moment of time, it's all there is timelessness. That's it, yeah? So that timelessness, that's what we're like, yeah? So what happens is when this gets seemingly forgotten and the new position gets in place, then it can get to such an absurd length that this new position will try to find that which it is, but as what it's not. It will try to find that which it is as what it's not. You don't see the fundamental flaw in that? It cannot be corrected by doing more of it. You're not going to correct that incorrection by doing more, by doing better, by doing greater. We were sharing it yesterday and the day before and the last 2 years. This one point Ramana Maharshi brought up many times in his writings. If you don't know, never heard of him, check him out, Any guy who can live in a diaper his whole life is fucking a hero to me. Seriously. I mean, man, I think that's freaking unbelievable. Basically, he just went his own way, so to speak. Man, I like that. So he has this. A lot of the people that wrote stuff about him and listened to him, they keep putting this as the problem, and this is the statement. So, supposing of a non-existent thing, This is a thing, yes? But it doesn't exist without spirit moving through it. If you've seen someone you know, and then they die, it's not them that you're looking at. When you look at the body, sometimes you'll get a distinct hit. That isn't Jim, you know? You were just assuming it was Jim because you're assuming this is Paul. But when the Jim, the spirit was gone, it's obviously, it's more a vehicle, yeah? It's not the driver or the passenger, yes? So this is a non-existent thing. It can seem to exist, but it's a non-existent thing. So the presupposing of a non-existent thing, that's what the selfing does. That's what the mental state's doing right now. See, the presupposing of the non-existent thing cannot make a non-existent thing. So the presupposing has to go on and on and on, yes? That which isn't so has to seem to be so quite often. You have to, the mental state and all this activity has to keep active to keep producing this sense of being something you're not. That's it. When it rests, it's obvious you're not that, yeah? So it's got to be on quite a lot. That's why the activity of selfing is agitation begetting agitation. It just agitates constantly, because if it actually stops, something will be seen from that ain't that which you've been usually looking from. You'll see from something, that sense, and then maybe you'll have a slap of recognizing, I am that, you know, but by realizing what you're not. So this idea of the selfing, it has to continually imply, assume, and infer. That's why there's so many thoughts. I mean, a lot of days we're navigating the day. Most of those thoughts aren't really about navigating the day we're in, are they? I mean, thousands of them are just superfluous, usually about us or about others, which is just us as other, yeah? So that's the reinforcing and all like that. So that activity to convince us that we're that is a yeoman's job, and how one of its main movements to see, and the thing is to see it, yeah? One of the main movements of this selfing is to claim, because it doesn't have a life, so it's in the process of claiming this opportunity, yes? And it doesn't have anything to actually prove that it is something. So what it does, it takes the faculties of this event and says it's doing them, yeah? So the consciousness that's moving through this event is going through 5 like shutters or doors, which is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, yeah? If we had 20 senses, it would be coming through 20 senses. There's no limit in the consciousness, it's just how many doors there are. So, right, this apparatus has 5 doors. It's like a sedan with a hatchback, you know? It's not a sports car, so there's 5 doors, you know. Consciousness is going out. Okay, so the conscious contact, that's an unbelievably, that's a very big thing to try to cover over in the selfing. That's like Mount Everest, the selfing. So what does it do? It can't get rid of that fact, it just claims it. It now says you're the one who's conscious, doesn't it? Isn't there a feeling that you're seeing right now and you're hearing? Yes, that's it. That's what it does, yeah? So it claims the consciousness, and so now when the consciousness is constantly, it's a constant newsletter from what we are to seemingly what we're not, so you can just go, you know, I mean, but whatever, you know. So now the consciousness is interpreted as, seeing is interpreted as seer and seen, yeah? And the obsession with self is obvious, where the emphasis is more on the seer than the seen, because you see tons of things, but there's only one seer during the day, and that's you. Yeah, see, this is the glue that the mental state keeps applying to make this imaginary bond seem to happen. It cannot possibly happen, but it can seem to happen if we believe it, yeah? So here you go. So the mental state says, I'm seeing. So now the seeing is sort of neutered, and now it's the seer and seeing. I'm hearing, now the hearing, you know, it's the hearer and heard, yeah? I'm tasting, the taster, the tasted. I'm feeling, the felt. Yeah, it's just a robbery in daylight. It just robs, right. It takes the expression of what we are in being, in manifesting, which is conscious, and it says I'm the one who's conscious. So it presupposes that it's prior to consciousness. That's what it does. It's unbelievable. And so once that's in place, okay, I got the big fucking Mount Everest out of the way. Now I've totally neutered the aliveness and the awareness of the event. I can have a field day. Okay, so now make sure I'm the doer of everything. You know what I mean? I'm the doer. I'm the thinker. You know, you don't digest your food, do you? It's not, if I was sitting here and I'd say, oh, I'm sorry, I gotta stop the meeting, I gotta go home, I got a burrito in there, I forgot to digest, yesterday. Oh, a pizza from Monday, Jesus Christ, I can't be out for 3 days, I gotta spend my time digesting. Everyone would laugh, but a much subtler process, we believe we're the doer of thinking. We believe we're the thinker. We can't, it's absurd to believe we're the digester or that we're pumping the blood or beating the heart, but we make a huge leap, the mental state, and took a chance and it fucking got away with it. Hey, I'm the thinker. Really, it did. It didn't believe for 1 second you'd buy it, but we bought it. We bought it, okay. So now we're the thinker of the freaking thoughts that are driving me crazy. So basically, I'm now seen as the one who's driving me crazy. What an insane fucking conundrum that is. Yeah. So now, all right, then everything I feel all day, I'm the feeler of it. You know, every action, I'm the actor of it. Jesus Christ, everything that's happening now is being funneled back that it's you. This is what it does. To be able to seemingly forget the unforgettable, first of all, it can never have happened, which it hasn't. It can only seem to happen in this vehicle called time and space. So we can seem to be asleep to being inherently awake for maybe 80 years. If eternity jumps in, it's off. The whole fucking magic trick is blown. Yeah? But in time and space, it can seem as if we're asleep to being awake. Now we're all awake inherently, all of us. No big stars. Oh, Sally, you're awake today. No stars, it's just the basic, you're awake, yeah? And then there's two seeming themes of the storyline here. You can seem to be not awake, or you can seem to be awake, yeah? Now the seem to be awake is pretty easy because you're awake. The seem not to be awake is a lot of fucking work because you're awake. That's why it can only go for 60, 80 years. It just cannot do it much longer. You know what I mean? And probably at the end of time, when you're going to pass away, the whole gig is probably revealed too. Like, oops, sorry. I should have told you earlier. You're it. And why to say this? Because you can't teach what you are. You can teach what you're not. By seeing that what you call you is a mirage. It's a sleight of hand. It's a magic trick, yes? And when you witness the trick, just like Monty or whatever with the thing, if you see it and you really see it, then you know it's right where it is, yeah? If you're looking at it from out here, it fools you all the time. But let's say if you were behind and you'd see it. This is what we are. Where the freedom isn't after the bondage, it's prior. You're inherently free. Yeah. And if it's seen from there, you see the bondage is only an activity. Yeah. There's an assuming of bondage. There's a presupposing of bondage. There's an inference of bondage. There's an implying of bondage. But there really isn't any bondage other than what you believe. When the mind itself believes it, it will seem as real can be. Then when the mind stops believing it, you'll see right through it. Yeah. What was it? Was it that thick and opaque? Or was it totally transparent? It's neither. It's what it's seen by us. We give it all the meaning it has. Not from here, but from there. So this master said, all right, there's this non-existent thing. So there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, and then you want to get salvation or happiness or whatever for that non-existent thing. And then it says, all right, if this is the case, then the practices that you're doing that you hope would be extinguishing the non-existent thing will actually be used to reinforce the non-existent thing. So how could those things that you hope would destroy it if they're reinforcing it? That's what's happening.
Say that again.
Here. So I should read it actually if I have it here. So I don't want to go by it. So here it goes. If your practices themselves are reinforcing the non-existent thing, how could they destroy it? Yes? You see it? If the practices themselves are reinforcing the non-existent thing, in other words, while the practices are being done, the mental state is using them to make the practicer. Yeah? When you're doing the meditation, it's inferring the meditation as you're the meditator. So therefore, the non-existent thing now becomes the non-existent meditator, becomes a non-existent practicer. So then how could those practices that are reinforcing the non-existent thing destroy it? That's a question to see if it's true or not for you. For me, it was pretty earth-shattering in a way, or actually, when this was seen from that statement in India years and years ago. It could have been in Hoboken, New Jersey, so it wasn't in India. India didn't do anything. And I read that, and man, my spiritual pants fell down. And that's about the only pants I could wear. I was a terrible house painter. So the best thing I was a spiritual seeker. And then, because it explained, that little statement explained years and years of behavior. Yeah? Everything I was doing was being used to reinforce the doer. And I was upset for a little bit, but then I became very thankful because it saved me a huge amount of time. Yeah. Because then I realized, Jesus Christ, there's nothing to do. Yeah. In a way. And that's it. Yeah. And then you're going to do stuff, but then when you do it, it'll be done in a different spirit. Yeah. And then when you don't do it, it won't, and the not doing it won't be used to beat the living hell out of you. Like a lot of people, if they don't meditate, they think their whole day is ruined. We weren't meditating when we were 2 and 3 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously our days should have been ruined then. It's the meaning we give things, yes? There's a meaning we give things. Now that thing that we wanted to make us spacious and more alive is being used to contract us more and more. Like that's what it does with everything it comes in contact with. It uses it to reinforce the sense of self, not to free. It'd love to free the sense of self, because it would be a self the whole time. But the freedom from a sense of self is from, not for or by or as or through the self, but from it. You can see the activity that implies the thing. There is no existent thing as the thing. Yeah? You can see the activity that's constantly implying that. And when you see that activity, find out what happens. Maybe you'll start traveling lighter in a very stabilized manner. Yeah? Maybe a lot of your seeming interest and attention will be reshuffled. There'll be a reconfiguring of everything. And now things will become appropriate. Yeah, you'll see blue is blue and red is red. You won't have metaphysical questions. Yeah. Things, you will be what you've been looking for. Like those cryptic statements say, the seeker is the sought. Exactly. Or as St. Francis says, what's looking is what you're looking for. It doesn't say what's looking is what you're looking for after 20 pages of requirements are met so that you have now become the you you're looking for. No. It says what's looking is what you're looking for. Meaning now. Yeah. Now, or as a Buddha like Huang Po, a great, great old Zen master to me. If you ever like a book, The Teachings of Huang Po, he saves you a lot of time. He says you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use the light to seek the light. You can't use the mind, big M mind, to seek mind. If you do it for eons, nothing will ever happen. Yeah? The whole dilemma is the seeking may be leaving from a wrong place, a false address. It's sort of like the map may be great to get to LA, but you mistook where you're leaving from. Yeah? The maps are all from the idea that you're leaving from Des Moines and you're leaving from Omaha. Now the maps are perfectly way to get to LA from Des Moines, but you're not in Des Moines. This is the situation. Yeah? And if you're in Omaha, right? If you're truly in Omaha, you may realize that's LA. There's no need to go to LA. That's what can happen. And then that which you are looking for now is always available at all times right where you are, because it's none other than moi, you know. Not as Paul, but as what we all are. And that becomes obvious. So the head goes, but you don't know. All of this is in what we are. All of this is not taking us out of what we are. All of these movements are within what we are. We are the context. We are the space of this whole freaking dream. Nothing in this dream is going to break through the dreaming. Yes, we're the context. So when the mental state says, oh, I lost it, I'm feeling really agitated, I'm not happy, that's within the context of you being always available at all times right where you are. And then, oh, this time I've really gone too far. No, you haven't. Nothing has ever gone too far to escape the context of what you are. Nothing. No thing. No way. Yeah? So this obviousness starts becoming applicable. Not a chant or a mantra or an affirmation. It's an unspoken yes. You get it. You get it. You get that all of these that you would follow, you would hitch your little attention and interest, not yours, but the attention and interest to those mental stars. You're not taking those fucking trips anymore. You see the explosions, you see the comet tail, but you see it from the context, not from the person who's, tied to the comet tail. It's totally different. Everything goes on just as it goes on. Just like they say in Zen, first there is the mountain, then there is no mountain. So you have something happens, you see something clearly. But then there's the mountain again. But now it's different. You're usually not buying a lot of gear to climb the mountain anymore. Because you realize there is no mountain. You know what I mean? You don't have ropes and maps and everything. The Holy Land's above the mountain. No, you're right where you are. You are what you're looking for. Isn't that beautiful, lovely gospel? You get less able to be this, it's going to be an urban renewal project forever. You're going to be working on it, trying to make it better, trying to, you know what I mean? You really are. It's going to be the constant object of attention most of the time. I mean, it's like here, believe it or not, we all have faith. We don't have it, it is us. Mind is what we call faith. It's one of its zillions of attributes. Therefore, if people believe they've lost faith, that's having faith in that statement, that you lost faith. It's always faith. Faith is always before most activities here. Yeah? So, in your investigation, you'll probably see that there's been a lot of faith put into the thought system. You've been believing the thoughts. You have been. You've been taking those thoughts to such a level of faith that a thought about tomorrow can override today. That's a pretty unbelievable thing, to erase this, which is being engaged with by 5 gates of consciousness, with one little thought about Wednesday. I mean, you have to see that it's got some power that is us, must be behind the thought system, because the thought system can't do it. It doesn't have the juice. It has to attract the juice, which is us. There's got to be a faith or a believing in it for it to seem to be so. And it can only reach the level of seemingly be so. There's only what's so, and that's us. And everything else is just seeming to be so to us. So the thought system has no power to generate an effect. It's the faith that we put in it that gives it the power to generate a contraction now from an imaginary event next week. There's no doubt about it if you see it. There's no doubt about, follow the trail, it leads back to us. Yeah. If you check it out, just see what the difference makes when a thought's held as yours or as mine. Your thought's driving you crazy, but it does not affect me at all. But that same thought would suddenly have a huge amount of power if it was held here as mine. It's not the thought, it's us. So the faith in the thought system is really what keeps our interest and attention absorbed in there, because it's about us. Like in Buddhism, they call it the cherishing of self, yes? So the faith gives power to a thought about next week to override this whole experience. That's mind-boggling. You know, people talk about miracles, and Jesus supposedly raised someone from the dead, Lazarus, yeah? But at least Lazarus was alive once. We're miracle workers all day. We're making something out of nothing all fucking day. Aren't we really? We're making something out of nothing. We had a guy share at this recovery meeting yesterday. It was beautiful, because he described he woke up, had a good sleep, he had the eggs, he had the bread, he had the orange juice, you know, everything was fine, the whole thing, and yet he was totally flipped out. Not by what was happening, but up here, what was happening. And that what was happening is not engaged with what's happening, it's engaged in what's not happening. Yeah? And it has the ability, through our faith in the thought, to override or eclipse what's happening. How many days has it robbed? How many fucking moments has it gotten away with? And then what it leaves you with is an interpretation that maybe it can get better, or nostalgia for once it was great. It's a fucking heist. We're not seeing it. And we have the ability to see it. And once you see it, I'm telling you, the thief gets meek. It does. It puts the fucking chalice down. It tries to walk slowly down. It gets you in the middle of the heist. It's like, oops, sorry. It does.
You mentioned the 5 gates of consciousness.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I did, yeah.
I'm not clear.
Let's say, consciousness, what that is. Let's say conscious awareness. This event is being had by consciousness coming through 5 gates: eye, ear, taste, touch, smell, right? So this is how we're having an experience here. So and then in Buddhism they say the 6th gate is the mental state, and the mind seeing thoughts and stuff like that, yeah? So the mind is experiencing the mental state, yeah? And then there's experiences of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, supposedly of this physical other states, yeah? So that's the 5 gates of consciousness. But like I said, there could be 80 gates, yeah? There's not a limited amount of consciousness, or, you know what I mean? It's not like awareness isn't a quantity that you run out of, yeah? I mean, you didn't spend all your awareness, and then you gotta wait for the next shipment on Monday, and you're just sort of like not aware of anything. It seems like an unending, infinite reservoir, right? Interest and attention. What happens is we lose and gain interest in things, but we don't lose or gain interest. Yeah? It's just losing it in things, yeah? But the interest and attention is still, it's like infinite supply. It's just that we lose it in things, yeah? So we're interested in someone, then we're not interested in someone. But we didn't lose interest. We just lost interest in them. So the interest was being applied, yes? Now, what would happen if the interest and attention wasn't being directed and implied, which is the mental state attempts to direct our interest and attention to yesterday and tomorrow. It's what it does. Yeah? What happened if that wasn't the case, then maybe your interest and attention would like be roaming, and it may find great interest in things you weren't interested in at all, like space, silence, yes? Yeah? And maybe if you took off the leash, it wouldn't go where it was going before. It would see the absurdity of thinking about you 5 years from now and thinking about 5 years ago, and it would be enriching your day. You'd be awake to being awake. Yeah? In other words, your interest and attention could be interested and attentive to what's actually happening here, which is conscious contact. And maybe after all the contact is noted, there would be plenty of interest and time and attention to be interested in the consciousness of the event. You would be able to sense, hey, you and I being on. Yeah? Instead of it being enslaved to constantly supporting that which supports us as something else. Yeah? It would be free to go where it wants to go and find out where it goes. You may be quite content after the fact, because maybe it will go more into no thing than into things, because there's plenty of attention to deal with things, and there's plenty of attention to rest in no thing. Yeah? So now that's called the abidance in truth. That's called rest. Yeah? Your interest and attention have been freed through the faith, from the faith in the thought system and in the story, and now it's enriching your day. So you feel alive, yes? And then contentment's available. You didn't do anything to be content. You just feel content, yes? Your attitudes and outlooks go under revision. You know serenity and understand peace. You don't have to read books about it. You know what it is. You have a sense-feltness about it, yeah? You know what space is. You know what clarity is. You don't know it. You're being what clarity is. You're being what space is. You're being peace, yeah? You don't even know it. So that's like being is it. In quote-unquote spirituality, being is the knowledge, not knowing. Knowing is the booby prize. Being is the knowledge. That which you want to study is what you are. So what you study is about what you're not. So by seeing what you're not, you realize what you are. It's like a backdoor way to get to you. So you get to you by seeing what you're not. Yeah? Because what you're not is claiming to be you. So when you try to get to the truth from you, it's usually from the false point. Yeah? That's why, because the truth isn't outside, it's us. We're the truth. And that which we're looking for can't be experienced because it's experiencing everything. It's not under the purview of being experienced. It would be a thing or it'd be a something, and it ain't. Yeah? So it's untouchable by our little fucking tentacles, and yet we are that at all times. It's beautiful. Yeah? Beautiful. Can't commoditize it much yet. Maybe they'll find a way. Maybe they will. But right now, that's what I love about non-duality, because like surfing, they branded it, and now they have all these stores that sell surf gear, and so a $2 t-shirt is $50 because it has like Billabong on it, yeah? So every lifestyle that was really cool, the system morphs around and makes a product of it. And now you look like you were doing the thing you used to love to do. You know what I mean? Like all the people running around in yoga outfits and everything, they look like they're always in a yoga outfit, either going to a yoga class, leaving a yoga class, or in a yoga class. And all this, but non-duality, what kind of fashion are they going to be able to pull on that? You know what I mean? How are you going to promote the non-dual look? Beloved gaze, no, that can't work. Patchouli oil, no. Robes, no. Yeah, it's as of right now, it's untouchable, which is fucking great. Except for the business of getting us to keep looking for it.
That's where the market is.
Oops, I should have let that out. Because really, this job, I'm meant to become obsolete. Totally. That's the highest success level of participating in this, is you having absolutely no need for me. I hope we get together and share, but you know, it's not a good career choice, really.
But you're not even here. So
What?
you're not even here.
That's right. And can we have some questions now, and then can we have a break and stuff? Is that how we're gonna go today? Unless we're gonna have the 10-day retreat, we may. Yeah.
Starts now?
Yeah.
Starts now.
Any questions?
Just from the last comment, we're not even here, yet we're more than just here.
Yeah, well, that's the trip. But in a way, I see this, if you want to give a name to it, as dreaming, really. Like the Course in Miracles would say, I like this statement a lot, which is, you and I are the dreaming of this dream. You know the Course in Miracles? You ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Very, well, whatever. So you and I are the dreaming of this dream, and we forget that we're dreaming the dream. Now that's an impossibility. How is the dreaming going to forget that it's dreaming? Yeah. But so how does it seem to happen? Well, my feeling is, it seems to happen when we become identified as the dreamt. Yeah. Yes. This is the dreamt. Yeah, you can see it. Yes. This is the dreamt. So you and I are the dreaming of the dream. We forget that we're dreaming. And in that condition, we now give everything we've dreamt, thoughts, feelings, everything, all the power to affect us as the dreamt. That's the situation. That's the dreaming. Yeah. Say it again. Because it's a pretty good, to me, it describes everyone's day on this whole event, pretty much. It's a skeletal diagram of the whole thing, which is you and I are the dreaming of this dream, of the dream. Yeah, we're dreaming it. We're in it right now, dreaming it. We forget that we're dreaming it, which how could that possibly happen? It can't, but it can seem to happen. And I would say how it seems to happen is we become identified as what we're not, the idea of self. Yeah. So in that state, we have now, reality is now in the dream and giving reality to the dream. Yeah? How? Because it now gives everything it's dreamt all the power to affect it. How does it do that? It lends its reality to this place, to you, to me, to this and that, and then this and that. Like a thought becomes mine, and now the thought can own me. Yeah? A feeling becomes mine, and now the feeling can own me. Yeah? This is how it happens. The dreaming becomes the dreamt, and now it's owned by the dreaming, seemingly. Yes? Yeah.
I like your faith, the point you made about faith, and what kind of advice can you give for those people who have those other kinds of faith? Like, this feels so real to me and has always been like absolutely it, but you're surrounded by people who are in faith-based religions and such. How to just be less judgy when these people are really close to you. Like, I have Jehovah's Witnesses in my family and all kinds of that faith mixture, and it's not even to be loving, just to be with them, but it keeps saying like, fools, can't you wake up? You know,
Yeah.
Getting a hold of that.
Yeah. I'm not in that particular situation, but to me it's sort of just holding the space. Yeah. Letting Jehovah Witnesses be Jehovah Witnesses. Yes. Yeah, I mean, like we had the first talk on this trip was set up on a side of a river, and the people that were there at the beginning were there to eat some salmon. They had an ice chest of beer and everything. They weren't interested in this message, so it's not appropriate to share it, yeah? So it was just great to watch them. We were just hold the space. They saw me, I saw them, and we were just hanging out, yeah? The holding the space isn't an act, that's what you are, yeah? You can allow things to be as they are because they're not that way, actually. That's the exact same thing that gets applied finally to you. You allow this to be as it is because it's not you. That's the biggest break this whole thing will ever get. You'll be more of an individual when you're not an individual. Seriously, you'll just, the freaking fucking that claustrophobic clamping on you constantly as an object of attention is released. And this fucking body has a field day. It's fucking finally gonna get healthy, eating a lot of shit. Doesn't have this giant mental wet blanket on it all day, taking it to be the center of the universe. It's way too much for this to handle. You know what I mean? It's just a Toyota. You know what I mean? It can't be in the front of the parade all day. You know? So, man, you become more interesting when you're less interested in it. If you can get it like that. You really do. It's hilarious. And then the selfing doesn't have to change, but like before it was heard as like CNN, now it's like Comedy Central. It's the same broadcast, but it's like, you know, when Saturday Night Live would do the fake broadcasting, it's just like that. It's a fucking unbelievable. It's just hilarious, really. I mean, it's the same streaming. Yeah, the selfie doesn't have to stop. It's not you. It's produced by the brain. Yeah. But your interest and attention, the way it's sensed as a conscious thing is like, all you do is hearing the thoughts now, not listening to them. The difference is huge. Hearing thoughts and listening to them is huge. Yeah? It's very difficult not to listen to thoughts if they're held as yours or about you all day. When you see that they're not about you, then you just see them as thoughts. You can just hear them. Yes? Yeah. And it's different. It's totally different. Man.
I have a question.
Yeah.
About freedom. About freedom of will. Like, how much do we have any freedom? There is no us, right? So, like, there was no you.
Well, that should answer it right there. But
no, but there was no you to turn your life around. Was it destined to happen, or did you turn it around? But there is no you, right? So I guess that sort of answers my question.
well, nothing. If you feel like you have free will, I would exert it. If you feel like you have free will, I would exert it if I were you.
Okay.
Do the next right thing.
Yeah. So it's. Some people say that we're just puppets on a string.
I'm telling you, I'm just saying, if you feel like you have free will, exert it. If you don't feel like you have free will, don't exert it. See what happens. You know? Whatever the mind is the arbiter here. Yeah? If the mind believes it has free will, you better exert it. Because that's its belief at that moment. Yeah, I'm not saying there is free will. And also there's nothing that was destined to happen. It's just happening. Yeah, there's nothing destined to happen. It's just happening. Yeah, I don't have a belief in the reality of this place. I don't. I think when we pass away, it's like it never happened. To tell you the truth, because I don't believe it actually has happened. I think there's dreaming of it. That's my feeling about it. But the idea of free will. All I know is if you believe you need to do something, you better do it. Just take it for what it's worth. Because you're it. Yeah? You're the reality. And if the reality thinks for it to be reality, it has to do something, you better do it until it exhausts that storyline and then it realizes it's needed to do nothing. But if it really believes it needs to do something and you try to use this to counteract that, you'll be using this. And non-duality isn't something to use against something else. Non-duality is a negation, not two. That's all it is. There's nothing else. It doesn't mean there's one. It's just a negation, not two. That's it. It's the starting and end point, not two. That's all. Just find out. Everything is about finding out. You hear stuff, maybe it sticks a little bit, and maybe it becomes an understanding. But the understanding isn't vision. Seeing is different than view. View is understanding of view, yeah? Seeing is livingness, awakeness. Understanding will not produce a vision, but a vision will illuminate understanding. You're the illuminating factor, your inherent light, yes? Now the mental state can find an understanding that makes it more possible, let's say, for that light to shine or not be interrupted as much, but it's never producing the light. You're the light. Yeah? So if the light believes it has free will, you better exert it. It gets to a point where it realizes it doesn't have free will.
So it's faith. If I have faith and I have free will, then I do have free will.
Exactly. Well, seemingly.
It just appears as if you have free will, right?
Well, let's not even go there with it all. It just gets into free will. What the point is, really, lightness, I would say. If you were traveling lighter, well, I'm not saying you're not, but in traveling lighter, the ideas of free will, no free will, there's no interest in them, because you would hope that knowing that would bring you to lightness, and if you're in lightness, you have no interest in all that. Seriously, and I'm saying you're light. You know, that's your inherent nature. Yeah? We're hoping that if we had an understanding, it would allow us to be lighter. But if you're lighter, then you lose interest in all that. That's the good news. You lose interest in the need to be liberated. That's what happens. It's not like you're liberated. There's no liberation here. You were never bound. You lose interest in the need to be liberated. That which needs to be liberated isn't us. It's the head. The head would love to be liberated from itself, but as itself. That's why it can't fucking get out, because it refuses to deny it's in. It just wants itself trying to get out of self. So then we go, free will or destiny. But to me, the contentment rings through all that, yeah? The satisfaction rings through all that. Then the response is very simple. The response to space is holding space. Literally. That's what it is. Yeah? Just like awareness isn't doing awareness, it's being awareness. It's quite different. Yeah? We hold awareness as something we can increase or do something about. But really awareness is being awareness. It's not doing itself. And beingness is already complete, culminated. There's no process in being. There's no wasing and willing. It just is. So how we see being here is in verbing. Everything is happening. There is no happened. Nothing has happened, yet everything is happening. It sounds like tricky, but it's true. Nothing has happened, yet everything is happening. Yeah? The mind would like to put a stop to it and say that happened. Yeah? Basically to sort of reflect itself in that. But everything is happening. Happening. It's like the river. You're not going to know the river by taking a glass of water out of it. Yeah? You've lost its essence, which is the rivering. Yeah? You're not going to get that feeling. If you drink that, it's not going to be like jumping in the river. It's just not going to do it. Yeah? Rivering. So there's no destiny. There's destining. It's all verbing. Tons of happenings, but nothing's happened. How could that fucking be? Entertain it. See. It may ring true for you. There's tons of happenings, yet nothing's ever happened. They're inclusive. They're not exclusive. The one nothing's ever happened isn't denying everything's happening. Yeah? Yeah.
I found myself,
Let's say if there's worrying about next week, you have no opinion about is it worthy to be worrying about that which is going to happen next week. Nothing. You just ask who it is that's worrying about next week. So you throw a wrench in the works in the right direction where the works are going on. Not in next week, not in this, but in that, yes? And ask who is it? So, like you just explained the perfect time. Somebody's poking me. Who are they poking? Who is it that sees it that way? It can be seen in a lot of different ways, but who is it that says it's seeing it that way? And then, all right, so it's Hilton. And well, then ask who is this Hilton? Take it back a little farther. Don't let it off the seat right away. You don't want to have a 1-second interrogation. You want to just stare the light on it and see it move, and then a lot of stuff will be revealed. And so instead of having all the attention on that person or trying to do some effort of how to hold the space that I am, just ask who is it that has all these ideas. Yeah? This is about free from the bondage of self. And that's the bondage of self, the sense of being the subject, the sense of being the one, the sense of the one who's being pinched, the sense of the one who needs to hold the space. That's the bonding point, yeah? Everything else is auxiliary. Everything else is added or subtracted. That's the point. The point of conception is the presupposing of a non-existent thing. Who or what is that presupposing of a non-existent thing being offered to? We're not presupposing a non-existent thing. The presupposing of a non-existent thing is an offering to us. The mental state is offering us this idea that you know what you are, bro? Or no, bro? You're a non-existent thing called Paul, born this time with a knee and doing like that, yes? Come on, get in line. I'm gonna say this fucking every day. You might as well give in now, yeah? Isn't it? What we are isn't presupposing. There's the mental state, which is an activity, is presupposing that we're a non-existent thing. To who? To what? It's not just presupposing it. Something that is existing has to buy the presupposing to make the non-existent thing seem to be the thing that's existing. Obviously, how is the non-existent thing going to get existence unless it goes to existence? You know what I mean? It's got to sort of go, hey, existence, I'm you. All right, here you go. Now, you're as real can fucking be. Only for some time, and it's in a dream, but go to it. You got 80 years? Go. Obsess. Thought about. Everything interpreted as, and yet still truth breaks through constantly. Constantly. Every night you go into deep sleep, you're not there. Constantly. I mean, it's bleeding through. You're constantly laying paint on the canvas, and it still bleeds through. The canvas expands, you can't get enough paint on it. It still bleeds through. You know what I mean? There's so many gaps in this selfing. There's big, giant space. And the selfing is such a minuscule little mental activity in a huge space of what we are. You wouldn't even notice it if it was in your room as a thing. You wouldn't. You would fucking walk over it every day, would never even take notice of it. But here, then this gets, this is all there is. I mean, after 60 years of thinking about this, it would be scary for this to think it's not so. After all that investment of fucking worrying, and if you realize, hey, I've been worrying about the wrong person, a total stranger, I mean, it would be funny. Jeez, it'd be, hey, I got a lot invested in this fucking production. I gotta syndicate it. I mean, even if it just has to go right to DVD, I gotta still fucking milk it. Because, hey, jeez. It would make me seem really, really fucking stupid to have been thinking about this all this as that, that would be what would I call a crisis? That the self would be in a crisis of self. So listen, I'll make a deal with you. I'll look for it. I'll look for the truth. I know I'm never finding it because I know deep down I am the truth, but I'll look for it. So is that good enough? Oh, Peekaboo. Oh shit! It's here again. Well, why do we like to go to sleep, man? It's not the dreaming. We want to get to that deep sleep. We want to fucking be totally extinguished. The non-existent thing, be totally non-existent. That's the only way the non-existent thing can continue, is to have some fucking reprieve. Like every half mile, I've called a day to go into deep sleep because it's exhausting. Isn't it? I swear to God. I mean, talk about faith. We lay down, we go to sleep, there's no contract we're going to get up. And we're fucking willingly going there. It's not like when you're a kid, like when you go to bed at 9, maybe. You're a kid, you want to stay awake. No, let me take a nap. You want to break constantly. Come on, this is old. It's so like I'm rushing, fucking pillow, no pillow, just where I can't wait to go. I mean, that's available now, in a sense. Yeah. It may not seem the same because there'll be a sense of body while you're in the awake dream. Yeah, you will have there's going to be a sense of body and everything. That's like a full pass to paradise, basically. But here, there's called being awake to being awake in this dream aspect. Yeah. I don't think it's a really big deal. I think it's actually quite normal and ordinary. Yeah. It just becomes the basis, a new basis, which is you're awake to being awake.
And how come we only have flashes of that?
Well, I'm not having flashes.
Well, you're not having flashes, but how come I'm having flashes of that and just flashes?
Well, maybe you just got into the theater and you're watching the previews. Settle in, you'll see the whole movie. Seriously. The flashes may be like upcoming events. They're free samples, they're things, yeah. This is a beautiful way because like the Course says in a very beautiful way, you and I are the dreaming of this dream again, and we're going to dream ourselves out of the dream. So it's not going to be a rude awakening sometimes. You're going to use the dream to dream yourself out of the dream. And while we are doing this, the dream's going to get happier. That's a beautiful thing, yeah? So it's going to use all the qualities of the dreaming to dream itself out of the dream. Beautiful, eh? So you're going to get a lot of free samples. You're going to get a lot of indications. And one of those indications, the key will turn completely, and the door that had no lock will seem to swing open. And then it's almost like 51% of the stock will move over to the winning side, and now that majority voice will be the minority voice. It'll be in the mailroom, and you'll have a new CEO, so to speak. And things will go well, in a sense. Or they won't go well. In a lot of ways, it won't matter. You'll be well. Yeah. Not based on circumstances, situations, but you'll be an inherently okay. Yeah, that's what you are. Yeah. And you're here. This is an interesting place to be. There's an energy in here, and so but that energy is in already. It's like a spiritual subpoena has been served. You'll be called to a court of light, and all your little seeming transgressions will be annulled, literally. You'll be freed from the bondage of self, as a possibility at least. And maybe the mind will want to dream itself, out of the dream, or maybe it will put an end to it now, who knows? It doesn't really matter, does it? Really. When it's all said and done, there's nothing that happens, there's no capturing of Saturday, is there? It's almost as if Saturday came and fell off a cliff, doesn't it? In other words, all of this happens and just falls. As soon as it comes through this, it's like it never fucking happened, yeah? That's an authentic feeling, a sense, that it's like it never happened, because it isn't, it never did happen. It's just happening. And we're the whole nexus of it happening. We're the dreaming. But we're not the dreamt, we're the dreaming, yeah? Yeah. So, you want to take a break? Yeah? Is that all right? Yes. Stopped. It can stop occasionally, and it may stop, but it's not necessary in a way, because it's not of you, yeah, in a sense. It's the brain is the selfing. So it's not like, again, the feeling of being a self would be the idea that you have to stop selfing, or selfing has to stop for something to be okay. Yeah? That's the selfing. The selfing is always attempting to put a consideration or a requirement on your inherent condition. Yeah? So people say, well, it's only when the selfing stops then that will, no. It's always some kind of requirement that it throws in there as like it makes up like distance out of nothing. So you are that, yet then it has you having to fulfill requirements to be that, yeah? So some people think they have that no thought, you know, or this or that. So it's all the head playing God with God in a sense. Yeah.
There was a sense of the futility of the thinking that I wanted to do. Just like, okay,
Yeah. Well, like my friend said yesterday, the futility of thinking is it's always about something. There's, you know. Then what happens is when you see the thinking, it's about nothing. Really.
that's what I meant. It was like, what is this?
But when we're listening to the thinking, you know, we're interested, it's about something. And that, whatever that something is about, it has something to do with us as an action figure. The system explains itself by the statement self-centeredness. That's it. It's a self-centered system. So the thought system is centered on self. That's what it does, yeah? So if you're a believer or a devotee or have faith in the thought system, you're probably going to have a sense of being its product, yeah? Which is that feeling of being a non-existent thing. Because that product is something that's made, yeah? Seemingly by the mental state. It can only see, in this case, the mental state, you know, they have an old statement in Zen, pointing at the moon, but at least there's a moon in that statement, yeah? So the teachings are pointing at the moon. It's not that, it's the moon, yeah? But in this case, the mental state is just pointing. There's nothing there. Yeah, it just keeps pointing, and then mind makes the leap into taking itself to be a body, yeah? It pictures itself like an image. Your mind works in images, yeah? It pictures itself as a body. Yeah. Once that becomes the new reference point, then basically the feeling of life is like an infrequent experience, and then it's always bookended with an interpretation of life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So even the absence of self will become a story that self has, like epiphanies and things like that. It will constantly, whatever it comes in contact, use that to refer to itself. There's nothing right or wrong in this. It's just good to notice, because it's going to keep going on, yeah? But its life and breath, its depth and weight is based on us, not on it, yeah? It's sort of like, in this case, the movie's made by the audience, yeah? We give the meaning to the movie. We make it a real action documentary, or we see it as a farcical little satire, basically. It matters how we're seeing it. The movie is just, it's not a really, it's the audience, yeah? So the idea of the selfing, this isn't about I've got to stop selfing, that's selfing again, yeah? It's just it's noting or having sometimes, sooner or later, the emphasis on the seeing, not the seen, yeah? And if that becomes a frequency, one of those times, there's going to be an anchoring into the seeing, yeah? And then, because we're looking for ourselves as a thing, yeah? So we're looking on the horizon to see ourselves, and we can only picture ourselves as a thing when we're a no thing, we're verbing, yeah? We're not recognizing us because it's like a movement. We think it should be something, yeah? But all there is in other words, all there is happening, yeah? There's nothing that's happened, but there's all there is happening, yeah? So the mental state keeps reassuring itself that we have happened, we will be happening, and we're happening now, yeah, as a thing. And that's why we miss the sense of our expression, because the sense of our expression as what we are here is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. That's the pulse, that's us, yeah? Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Now that doesn't comprise us, those are the 5 examples of us because there's 5 gates. Yeah, there could be 50 gates. It could be 200 gates. Some insects have 7 senses or something. It wouldn't. It's the awareness isn't defined by what it's moving through. Yeah. The interpretation is, the experience is. Yeah, you see something, you hear something, you feel something, but that which is seeing, yeah, isn't vision. It's not hearing, it's not tasting, it's not touching. It's awareness. It's our condition. It's our prior to condition to all the other conditionings. It would be nice to see life if a little of that was let in. That you would, as you were awake, you would be awake to that. Yeah. Instead of wanting to be awake, instead of having an idea or a story that you were once awake, or, you know, it would be nice just to have that as a new basis, and a lot of stuff would settle differently. Yeah, it would throw a lot in the air, and then things would settle differently. Your cards would be shuffled probably as this event. Yeah, you'd be reconfigured, and you'd see anew. Like Jesus says, you'll have eyes to see, the eyes to see and ears to hear. You'll see anew. Yeah, the seeing was always there, but now there'll be a sense of the seeing, not the interpretation of the seeing as seer seen. You'll have the sense of space, like you're sitting here. This has a very strong sense of space, this space, yeah? And then all out here, you'll feel it, almost like humidity, almost, yeah? You'll feel, you know, you'll feel it. You'll feel it in a way. You'll sense space. It will, instead of having the constant repetition of how small you are, how closed you are, you'll have a constant reminder by the activity, not through thought, by the activity of being space. You'll have a reminder of spaciousness, yeah? Not conceptual, not one sentence in a book. You'll have a feeling, you'll sense it. You'll walk around and you'll sense space, or you possibly can. Yeah? Your sense here won't be based on just seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. It'll be based on what's seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and touching. Yeah? You won't just be taking in the information that the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and touching has afforded this. In other words, the aspects of the dream won't be taken in and then be dreamt over and then dream, you know. There'll be a sense of the context here. And I'll tell you, it's a very nice leavening agent into your life. Yeah? It's truly not like, it's not a promise that you're going to have everything go great as an action figure. Who knows how it's going to go? But I do know, because over a period of time it's been this way, that you are afforded the ability, because it's always there, to travel lighter over whatever life has in store for you. And after a little bit, after a while of that, you'll see that's more than enough. Yeah. A contentment will arise. Yeah. That there'll be a prior space that won't be agitated by agitation, and it's not agitated itself, yeah? And so you'll be able to see the activity of selfing, because you'll see it from a very restful, very all-available, everywhereness type of view, and you can really capture its movement when you're still, yeah? Not when you're being moved by it. You're still, you see it, yeah? You see it. And there's, that sense of seeing it is like the sense of seeing everything else, yeah? You now the emphasis becomes on the feeling of being alive, not the story about being alive, yeah? The feeling of being here, not the details of being here. The sense of being on, not the things that prove that I'm on, yeah? Like it's that as the starting point lends itself to everything else, every other step. You have every other step now the space is seemingly pointed out, yeah? Instead of all this and that, you just sense, you sense things. And then there's like almost like you're attuned to a new language, but it's not a conceptual right angle rigid language. It's more like a it's not like brick or block. It's got much more fluidity, but it still infers and informs, yeah? But it doesn't like end with periods or exclamation points. It's more sort of like a swirl almost thing. I don't know how to say it, but it's a feeling, And you know that then you see the movement of the selfing, which is purely horizontal. It's like a linear track, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It only has 2 gears, backwards and forwards, yeah? It doesn't turn off to see any fucking vistas or any landscapes. It's always idling. It never turns off. It's fucking constantly has to be moving to seem to appear real. It has to stay agitated to sort of make an appearance of being solid. It has to. It's good, like, when you go so fast and you see it almost, you see it, the hand this big if you go so fast. That's what it's attempting to do. It's trying to conjure up an image that's solid that cannot be solid. Yeah? So it's just like, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward. Yeah, it's on this one track. This is different. You want to call it vertical, but I don't say vertical. It's like vertical insertion, and a lot of times it doesn't even translate into language. This is just a seed assignment. It translates into sense-feltness or presence, yeah? Or like a very loud buzz or hum in your head, or your whole, whatever you want to call it, your head, but it's just vibration going off like the celestial spheres. And I'll tell you, when you meet that sound, it's like the most constant experience of all here. It's more constant than your breath. It's more constant than your heartbeat. It's just vibratory, like a generator that's humming. You're like humming, Yeah. You go there, and you're still prior to that. You're still that. You're still that which hears that. Yeah. You can take everything to like the first thing you experience. If you're in time and space, a lot of your experiences of every day is really body sensations, yeah? I mean, really, you're feeling tons of stuff, knowing it or not. You're having experiences all sitting here, all the time, yeah? So let's say one of those is that vibration. Well, that vibration is the most constant experience. My knee is pulsating in different ways, different experience, different vibrations, digestion, everything. Breath has a little hiccup, that little turn around, the beats, not beat. This is all the time. And yet that most constant experience is still, there's something prior to that, which is what's hearing it. So that which can hear the most constant experience must be more constant than that. Yeah? That's what we are. That's the starting point that's never been moved. All the idea that this is where I am is not factual. It's not factual. It's an advertisement. It's an assumption. It's an inferred. It's taken to be so. It's presupposed to be so. It's in the forwarding of everything, it seemed to be so, but it ain't so. That's the good news, yeah? Now, maybe it hasn't totally downloaded and turned everything around here. So what? This is going to end. And when it ends, it'll be like it never happened. And when if this hits you in a strong way, it will be, I'm telling you, one of the things that's going to come along with it hitting you in a strong way, it's like it's always been this way. So therefore, its strong sense of so-ness will erase any so-ness that you ever thought had so-ness in a nanosecond. It'll be like, this has always been this way, it's never not been this way. So when the circus comes to town, it's one of many fucking circuses comes to town, and all those tents are going to be folded and it's going to leave. Yeah? But you're never going anywhere. You never join the circus. None of that happens. It's just a storyline. You are the canvas, you are the page, you are the context, you are the sky, you are the ocean. The wave, yes, it seems to have life. It feels like it's different than what's generated it and makes it all up. But that wave is going to crest and fall. It's going to run into some shore somewhere, usually, yes? And this is the whole dilemma. We're the ocean, that's assuming it's a wave. Yeah. Simple as that. The wave has a defined stubbornness that I'm a fucking wave, which convinces it that it can be dry, that it can find the ocean, it can know the ocean, it can have an experience of the ocean, but safely entrenched in being a wave. When knowing the ocean, in its case, would be being the ocean, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If the wave realized it was the ocean, but that's not how it realizes it's the ocean. It realizes it's not a wave. That's how it realizes it's the ocean. And how long does it take to transfer from wave to ocean? No time at all, because the wave is the ocean, and the ocean is the wave. Yes? It's in the wave's point of view, it's going to take time to unwave me, and I've been a wave for so long, you cannot believe what a fucking wave I am. But all the while, the ocean hasn't left you. You're as wet as you've ever been at all times. And if a day it dawns on you, that will be the case. Yes? The wave will never see itself as a wave again. Yet there will be waves. Yeah? So, do you think it's so impossible that the wave could know that it's an ocean while it's waving? It can. It is. It can very easily. Unless a lot of us don't think so. We think we've got to fucking vanquish the wave or therapize the wave, or sometimes it's a wave, but it's really not the wave. You know, I haven't found my authentic waveness. All of this is just the non-existent thing trying to prolong its non-existence life. Really, really, by making itself as a goal. Yes? You're a wave, you know, and of the ocean. You seemingly are a wave and the ocean. Yeah? You're really seeming like a wave, ocean. You're really, really, ocean. You don't feel like you're a wave, ocean. Yeah? There's no wave where there's wave and ocean. It's not the wave merges with the ocean. It's not, you're not going to merge with the ocean as a wave. It's just the idea, some ocean has a strange idea it's a wave. Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get back to the ocean, not by studying ocean, not by praying, oh, I love the ocean of oneness. I'd love to experience the ocean. None of that's going to really work. It may make the wave feel better, but as a wave. But if you see you're not the wave, what happens? The oceanness is obvious, isn't it? It doesn't take any time to become impressive. It's impressive immediately. Because it's always been the case. Only in time could it seem to be different. It's the same story. The mental state wants to move away and saying it's moving towards the truth. But in actuality, it's attempting to move away from it. Because as it moves away, with this pretense of moving towards the truth, it's bigger and bigger and bigger as that wave. It has no intention of finding the ocean because it knows deep down it's the ocean. But it wants to be the wave. Yeah? When it gets tired of that or something happens and the wave gets whacked, yeah, it comes to its ocean senses. Yes? Yeah? Then, like the Zen said, first there is the wave, then there is no wave, then there's a wave again. But now the ocean isn't fooled by the movement called a wave. Yes? It's deeply rested. Yeah, and it allows the cresting and the breaking of the wave not to be taken so seriously, which really translates into traveling lighter. And I'll tell you, if you had a sense of traveling lighter on a stabilized level, it would probably be way more than enough for you. You know, all those ideas you had of this feeling lighter, called enlightenment and everything, you'd lose interest in them. Because really, they're really just as representing that you wanted to feel okay where you're at and in the circumstances you are. really, because that's how it works. Yeah, we're giving it a name with the hopes, and some very lofty ones. But in fact, if you were satisfied, stabilized, wise, and content, yeah, that would be way more than enough. Because then the entertaining would be seen to be not interrupted, which is its condition. The mind is just entertaining itself in a way. Space, 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 context, 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 sky, allowing everything to appear in it, yet not being affected by what's appearing in it. That's a mimicking of what mind is like. That's what it's like. Yeah. Every day, everything's said and done, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. Remember those things? All the lines, you just shake it up a little, they go away, and there's your little mental hands on it next day, building your little sandcastles, and then shakes up, shakes up. After a few, it could take many or a few, you realize, what's up, hey? You know what I mean? I've had all these experiences, where are they? Where's my bank book on experiences? I should have $1.000 million of experiences. I can't seem to make a draft and take any of it out. You see, it's like sort of coming and going, like everything. It's like everything hits here, goes through, it's like a mist. It's like nothing ever happened. We're it. We're reality. We're reality. We are what's giving everything all the meaning it has. We are that. We are the dreaming of the dream. We're not the dreamt. We are the dreaming of the dream. It's a different position. Yeah? It may be appearing as the dreamt, but it is the dreaming. Yeah. The dreamt is never going to dream itself out of the dream. The dreaming dreams itself out of the dream. The dreamt does not dream itself out of the dream. The dreaming does. Yeah? Just pound away at it. Just why move on from this primary point, in a sense? Because if this is missed, if the non-existent thing keeps constantly being taken as an existent thing, that is going to shadow every step of the rest of the way. And I don't care what that step is, if it's on a temple stair or on a fucking 6th and Markets, a curb, it's the same. It's going to be overshadowed and shadowed by the reinforcement of the non-existent thing attempting to get salvation for itself, or a happiness for itself, or a peace for itself. Yeah? That's what happens. It's not personal. That's just how it is. Yeah? The mental state is trying to say your starting point is over here, and then actually trying to make where you're at as maybe a goal that some of us are interested in, which is more torturous than ever. If spiritual seeking was a factory, it would have been closed. It promises, and then it has us so extended in believing it because we have no touchstone that it may take lifetimes. Fucking what a great deal. If I sold a product that it could never be returned, it'd be fucking great. You know what I mean? And if you were disappointed in the product, it would be more on you than me. Yeah? It wasn't though 2 weeks, it was you. You didn't practice enough. This is what self-centeredness does. It's the perfect movement to clothe or put stealth on the self-centered system. It's selling you a bill of goods, but there's no delivery. It tells you it's going to get you happy, joyous, and free, but when? It's always on a time delay, and when it fails, which it always does, you get blamed. You blame yourself. It's a perfect insurance policy for a failed system. The person who has the policy will blame themselves. You never even call up the insurance company to get insurance money for the flood. You think you started the flood. I burnt the house down.
It's true.
I know it's true. That's what self-centeredness is. Everything is seen from the point of view that you had something to do with it. I had this when I was young. I saw a perfect example of it. I was 6 years old, just a kid running around in Long Island. At that time I was in Massapequa, and I lived on Hickory Street, and everything was cool. And then my mother had a meeting with me and said, Dad's really ill, and so things are going to change. So he's not going to be able to take you to play baseball and stuff like that. And I heard her say what she was saying. Then at that time we had family doctors, so Dr. Jan Quinto was brought in to talk to the kids, and I was the youngest. And I remember sitting with him, and he was telling me, your father's got a very big problem with blood pressure, and he can't be doing stuff, exerting and everything like that. And I listened to everything they said, but what overrode everything I heard was this thing: what did I do to make my father not want to play with me?
Oh.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's self-centeredness. And that overrode all the logic, all the reason, all the there was no lacking in how they were explaining it. It was super clear. All of it was overridden because the only way I could see it is I must have fucking done something to cause this, because that's what self-centeredness, that's how it looks at things. That's the whole point of the Course in Miracles. The guilt that we seem to be producing all the time is this insane guilt because we believe we separated from the Godhead, which is impossible. Yeah? And we're fucking incredibly feel very, very fucking bad about that. DP. And so when people say, oh, how beautiful this place could be, and it's all love, and the universe is just love, and then you see your day, and how you treat your spouse or something, or how other people treat others, it doesn't make any sense. It's like that cognitive dissonance. It's like, that, yeah, and where are you going to be written in this story? You fucking must have done something for it to be this shitty. If you're going to play God, you're not just playing God with the good shit, you're claiming it all. How are you going to be, if you're led by that, where do you think it's going to lead you? Express itself your whole life, you're going to be living on a fucking weird freaking, your whole camera is going to be askew. You won't see fucking anything because you'll see everything as how it pertains to you. That's not seeing. That's blindness, really. That which cannot be enslaved appears to be enslaved. How to get out of it? Only way is realize you're never in it. The greatest way to get out of something is realizing it's an imaginary place. That's the quickest fucking way, and you never return to the imaginary place. It's not like in, out, then back in, out, and then you hope you get a longer out, but then you get a bigger, way longer in. It's not in and out. It's like the best way to get out of an imaginary place is to realize it's imaginary. That's the best fucking way. So question the reality of that you think is real, and when you see that it ain't, then what happens? Your marching orders are stop. There's no packing for a long, arduous journey. This is it.
Game over.
This is it. Seriously. It's simple. What's the best response to a problem that's not actually happening? Seeing that it's not happening. Most people's problems, really, if you followed them back, you think they come back to you, but they don't come back to what you are. They come back to the mental state. And the mental state is procuring this very, very exotic herb from an imaginary field called yesterday and tomorrow. And it's smoking itself into a fucking trance.
Legally.
Legally, yeah, right.
This is all, just an inviter, just inviting. If you see it prior to it, you'll see it totally different if you're trying to look at it afterwards, If you see it prior, that's the freedom. If you look at it after, that's the wanting to be free. Prior, freedom. After, maybe wanting to be free, which you think is a hope. I hope the wanting to be free will lead me to freedom, but the wanting to be free is a bonding agent. Yeah. Prior, freedom. Your inherent condition has not been interrupted by anything that's ever happened. The most heinous thing I ever did hasn't left a mark on it, ever. You know what I mean? We just don't believe it. We believe I'm fucking real and solid, and I did those things, and I need to pay. And then you will. That's the way it goes. You're the judge, the jury, the defense, the prosecutor, the jailer, the probation officer, the bail bondsman. All the roles are ours, yes? This is how it happened with me. Someone pointed out to me, my mind heard it, let's say maybe a little, I just heard a little, I entertained, read some things, did that, then when the mind would hear something that resonated and there would be an expansion in mind, and then that expansion in mind, thank God, wasn't surrounded by thought, so it could do its thing, it would expand, and then its expansion, which seemed expanding to me, would show actually how expanded mind is. Because it wasn't mind expanding, it was an expansion in mind. And the expansion in mind lends itself to entertaining how expansive mind is. So when your mind opens up, it lends to the possibility of entertaining how fucking open it is. Yeah? So these things I would hear or read triggered like avalanches. And those avalanches, there would be a big fucking echo. And then the echo, like if you dropped a stone in a super deep thing and it doesn't, it goes there, and you get a sense of how deep it is because you never hear it hit the bottom. That's what it's like. So you have a very mind expansive event, but it's not even making a sound in the bottom, in the infinite mind. So you mimic. So when you drop that stone and you don't hear it, don't you picture the depth almost? Well, that's what it's like. Mind entertains. Mind entertains. Mind, something you can come upon, a spoken word or space, will be like that stone dropped in a very fucking deep, deep well. Yeah? And if the tension will be there and you'll never hear it hit. That's a free sample. That's an intimating of what you are. Yeah, you're not located here. You're not an extended 70-year chronological story. You're not the sum of your experiences. You're not any of that. Yeah. All of that's just arising in this unbelievable space that we are, that hasn't taken form, yet it's all form. Yeah. That when it entertains itself, even as when you're thinking that you're not it, you're still it. When it entertains itself, miraculous things can happen. Look at what we're doing. We can make something out of nothing. If we turn that a quality that we don't see it as an acquired ability, this is what we do. We give meaning to things. Can you imagine if we turned and gave meaning to that? That has no meaning, how reverberating that could possibly be, then you'd see that peace is secured. It's not an unstable situation. Serenity isn't based on tiptoeing around a volatile outer condition. Serenity is innately available. This, for the people that are new here, I heard it again yesterday too. A lot of people come to these talks and they say, everything this guy says is going over my head. I want to humbly inform you now, that's the direction of the ball. I am not talking to you about mind. I'm talking to mind about you. It's gonna go over your head. It's not, your head, the mental state's trying to catch everything that's thrown its way. We're just trying to barrage it with so many fucking balls. It can't, it just can't get every one of those mitts up. And all it takes is one to get through, and whack, it hits, and that's it. The mind starts having a possibility it wasn't seemingly available to, which is, hey, I may not be that. That's all it
Bloody
takes.
funny.
That's all it takes. I may not be that. And then another one, oh, yes. And I remember when it happened one day, I didn't even know it was happening until I read a statement out of recovery, which is something that I had been leading workshop based on this chapter from our big book for like 19 years. So I read this chapter, how it works, a lot of the time, because every Monday night I was leading a workshop on it. And I read once again a sentence I had read thousands of times, but it was totally fucking vibrantly new. And it was this: being convinced, which means to believe with certainty, that self, or I would say selfing, manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us. I would have put, is what has seemingly defeated us, because it only can defeat you if it appears to be true to you, really, right? So if I could rewrite it, I would say, self manifested in various ways is what has seemingly defeated us, okay? We're the us, yeah? And then there's this, let's call it a thing, but it's not a thing. Let's call it a parasitical movement, self, yeah? Or a foreign installment. Yeah. Just to have a sense of otherness. As soon as the mind can think it's not it or feel it's not it, a possibility arises. And what had happened with me, I had that sense that I wasn't it, and immediately as soon as that sense I wasn't it was in place, didn't have to be the complete package, just a sense, then a star in that little landscape up there that I'd never seen appeared, and it was, I can be free from it. As soon as I saw I wasn't it, it offered me a possibility that was never offered while I was trying to be free as it. When I was trying to be free through it, when I was trying to be free through doing, when I was free through study. No, the freedom was from it. And as soon as my mind entertained that, that was it. It recognized it's not that, and then in a sense, because there is really no time, it was that's that. And then it's just played itself out over these last how many years. That's all it did. It was always pregnantly, it's always entertaining, but the self-centeredness limits what possibilities you get to entertain. And even the ones you get to entertain are stretched into time, which you lose it, yeah? But this came in, I'm not that, and then the freedom from it, and the freedom from it works, yeah? The negation way works, yeah? Seeing what you're not is how you are what you are, because the activity of what you are here is seeing. So by being what you are, which is the seeing, and seeing what you're not, that's the recognition of what you are. That's how you and I get to quote unquote know ourselves. It's an intimation of being ourselves, of being what we are. In being what we are, that we get a sense of that. Yeah? In movement, we get a sense that we're the movement, instead of this little action figure story. That's it. Take it, keep, boom, just go there, go there, go there. One time, maybe immediately, maybe no time. The emphasis will be on that which is seeing instead of what's being seen. And there's your original face. You've shown up here, in a sense. Yeah? I would imagine you'll have an instant recognition by realizing what you're not, what you are. Yeah? So tasty, I'm fucking liking it myself today. Talk. I mean, it gets good sometimes, eh? It's like whipped really well. Like this would be a good foam for a really great latte, you know? Yeah. I feel like nothing going down. So, I'm not going to go on and on, so if you have any questions, we can extend this as long as you have questions. Yeah. Because it's an invitation, first of all. I just want to get this across. This is not a dissertation, and I'm telling you, more does not mean better. Yeah, it doesn't.
I struggle with being the wave and going to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 with other waves. You know, it's hard in certain work environments to kind of hold on to what we're
Yeah.
talking about here. And when I studied it a lot in the 90s with a guy in university in Wesleyan, Connecticut, like there was this point where I thought I was like losing my mind, and like I was there, right? But I just got scared, and you know, to put on the suit and tie, to go to work, to make the money, to pay the mortgage, like all that stuff that we're doing. It's hard to know.
Take for what, you know what's the best, cultivate some gratitude for how much relief we've gotten. There was no guarantee on that. How much relief, and what demand has this produced? Sitting down and just receiving something, and for me, sitting down and letting something go, which is how I receive it. Really, I have it by giving it away, in this case, yeah? How fucking easy is that? And what a fucking influence it's been, yeah? Let's, instead of, if the mark is held too high, it might not let us enjoy gratitude for how the effects have been. I'm fucking stoked, that seriously. It is really nice to walk into rooms. Obviously the thoughts may accompany me, but I'm not accompanying the thoughts. That's the good news. Before, I accompanied the thoughts that accompanied me, every fucking where. Now, the thoughts accompany me, but I don't accompany the thoughts. Yeah? That's no fucking big deal. It's the beauty of it. Every moment, it could be heavy, it stays lighter. I mean, what a great gift, The gift of nothing is the greatest gift of all, because it keeps on giving. It's the gift that keeps on giving, to realize you are so you, it's never even noticed. You never even notice. You don't notice it when you're being it. You don't. You really don't. You're not trying to capture its movements. There's just a being, Now what? So, who cares if it blows up like a bomb or it's like a muted little whisper? It doesn't fucking matter. Have gratitude for traveling lighter, yeah? I think gratitude's a great attitude to cultivate. I always say, thank you, man, this is more than enough. Don't let that carrot in front of you be used to whip the mule you're taking yourself to be. Fuck it, that's slavery. I mean, I'm just stoked about just, chilled out. Chilled out is more than enough. I'm telling you, the greatest relief is when you're relieved of the need to be liberated. Seriously, it's fucking incredible. You just have lost all interest in getting really better. I'm serious. I'm totally okay with dog shit awareness. I'm so fucking juiced by it. It's unbelievable. Because it goes unnoticed, it's not made into anything, and it's super reliable. Yeah. Yeah. So, any questions? More questions?
We're doing this when you talk about.
Yeah, and that's the reaction. Yeah. Hours go longer, self-pity kicks in, on and on and on and on and on. You see it? All this is just possibility. We bring things into expression. That's what this does. We give meaning to things. When there's faith in thought, faith can find expression through us here. Thought can find expression. They can make a big splash here. One thought that has gone through your noggin hundreds of times, one thought connected to an action becomes like a tattoo. Of course it's henna, it would wash off, it's not real, but here it will seem as real can be for that 20 years or that rest of your relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend, yeah? They're not gonna forget. Even when you've forgotten, immediately, they haven't forgotten. Remember the time you said you hated me? Oh, fuck. I'm still fucking pinned to that thought that could have just been passed on, you know what I mean? And now it's like my thought for the next 20 years. Jesus Christ.
How come it passes through 100 times and 101st time it gets caught? By what?
It doesn't get caught, it gets provoked or brought in by faith because you finally feel, you give it life. You go, fuck, it's right. I hate this person. Yes?
It's a feeling, like a feeling.
Yes, you comply with it. And in that compliance, it's sort of like, can you imagine if something had to burst through a membrane to appear here? Well, that thought pushes itself, and then your believing it brings it into expression. Yeah? And you say that, or you do that, or you hit that, or you know what I mean? You sign that, or you send that email or something, and then it finds length here, doesn't it? The thought that could have it had come and gone so many times, now stays. It's reached its potential. It gets to a level of seemingly so. And where the catapult, where its launching pad, it's just, it finds power by us giving it power. You know, how many times, this is what happens in recovery a lot. The mental state works on the recovered alcoholic and tells them, this place sucks, you suck, it's never gonna get better. Why not? You know, you need a break. You're under a lot of stress. You know, it's gonna be different this time. You know, you won't end up in jail. The relief will happen and you'll just stay home. You won't go out and drive drunk. No, you'll watch a movie, just have one. It goes on and on and on with you, and it convinces the person, this activity, and then it leads you to fuck it, and you go, oh, fuck it. And then it gives you a solution to it. It says, oh, just have a drink, you know? Or go sleep with your friend's wife or something, or do something, yeah? That's what it does. It's dying to find expression, but it can't express but through us. It's like we're being vied for all the time. Doesn't it sound like the mental state's talking to something in there a lot of the time? It's like it's trying to convince something. What is that something it's trying to convince? It's not talking to itself. Yeah? It's talking to us. Yes, us as what we are. And then if it wins, if we fall for it, if we put faith in it, then it talks as us. Like almost a seamless shift. Now it's talking as you. Now you're driving to the liquor store. You're not having a debate, should I go? You're just driving and, copping the drugs, doing everything. I mean, it's not talking anymore to you. It's talking as you. It's like here is expression. Energy's wanting to express. And a lot of it seeks expression through this possibility. We have a wide spectrum of possibility of expression, more so than dogs, you know what I mean? We can have hate. We have fucking levels of fineness to shitty stuff, let's say. You know? We're like a huge kaleidoscope to like a 2-light little telescope. A lot can come through here, and it's seeking expression, but we bring it forth by having faith in it. The thing convinces us, we say that's true, and therefore it becomes seemingly true, as Jesus says, as you believe, so it is. Exactly. It doesn't say so it is, and then you believe. It says as you believe, and then so it is. We bring it forth.
But there is no we.
There is no we, it's mine.
Right.
But I'm using language, I can't keep constantly saying mine.
It's just like, it's like the human condition. It's like, this is the shape life takes, right? Because I do hear, even now I've heard that you say this message so many times, and when you say that, when you say, you're giving it the meaning it has, you're doing it, you're bringing that expression forward, I hear that, I still hear that, even though I know that's not how you mean it, but I get hooked into hearing that, shit, I shouldn't do that anymore.
See, that's beautiful then. The message is working because you saw the burglar come up. It doesn't matter if I know the burglar, you need to see the burglar. It's in your house, not my house, yes, so to speak.
But
Yes, I would stay there, don't go there.
at the same time, like you said, all this anger, anger happens and hatred happens and stuff, and the part that I'm playing in it is the sticky part still around, especially, because we have these ideas that once we get something, once we see something true or absolute or about our true nature, that life will change. It gets softer, it gets sweeter.
But you're
it
not
gets-
seeing something of your true nature. Your true nature is seeing. It sounds cryptic, but very important. You are not seeing your true nature, or you're not seeing some of your true nature is seeing. That's it. That's your nature, is seeing.
Okay, when it is realized, when you see what you're not, so that the point I'm
No,
trying to
what
make
can
is-
happen here is there can be an awareness of the awareness, yeah? Or there can be being asleep the awareness. Are possibilities that can happen here. But the awakeness is inherently so, yeah? So you are prior to the seemingly awake, and you're prior to the seemingly asleep. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to take everything back. You don't want to take it forward, especially if the one thing is seemingly in place. It's just going to have you on a wild goose chase. You want to let it go back. Go back. Go back as far as you can. It's not back, but this, how can you try to paint a picture? Because you want to get something across. So you go back, and you go as far back as you can, yeah? And then see what's happening there, yeah? And you're going to run into seeing, yeah, obviously. And of course the mental state is going to arise and say, well, there must be a seer, there must be a doer, there must be a haver. How could this happen if there's no seer or doer? Yeah, you're seeing that also. And the seeing, even though you underestimate it, is demonstrating itself every second. It's seeing, yeah, seeing. Whatever it is, it's still seeing, yeah. Things come and go, seeing, yeah. So the thing is more seen or less seen, seeing, yeah. And something gets to be like, it's like the one time you hear the whisper, aha, yeah, oh. Now, the idea of this noun or the doer or the seer, or it should be this way if I got that, or this should have stopped if I became, or if I was this, which is not coming from seeing. It's not coming from seeing in all those ideas, yeah? There's just the seeing. And now it's not an either and or thing. It's not, the seeing is only based on this. It's just non-based, yeah, it's just seeing. And then that sort of, the overwhelmingness of it can get through, yeah? So there'll be a sense feltness of, and then you realize that's always been so, yeah? Whatever your head has tried to make out of it, there's always been something prior to all the making. The mental state wants to make something and have you start later, after. Yeah, but there's always the seeing every step of the way. Yep.
There is no seer, there's only seeing.
Yeah.
It's like
And even that's too much, yeah.
too much.
It's too, you can just see, period. You're in it now.
Yeah, we're
But yes,
seeing right now.
Yeah.
From the expression mad, sad, or glad. Yes.
It does. But you're not that. You're not that which aspires, and you're not that which gets bummed out. You're not any of that. You're the seeing. Yeah? You're an activity here That's how it's expressing, which is seeing. You're on. And it's not just on, it's on-ing. Yeah? It's incessantly on. And the action figure has its own little programming and story, and it has inclinations, it aspires for this, and of course, and the action figure may be moved to work on itself, and that's all fine and dandy. Yeah? But it never has ever verified that it's you. It just, there's an implying of it. They're implying that the aspirations are mine. There is an implying that the longings are mine. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way at all, to tell you the truth. Yet the action figure is included. I aspire to go home, you know, as soon as possible. I aspire to get something to eat. You know, I'm not thinking it's me. What I am is wanting to get something to eat. But wanting something to eat isn't excluded, because why do I have to negate what I'm not? I just negate it by seeing it. I don't have to just change this. This has its little predilections, you know? It was being taken to be my predilections, which gave it a lot of fucking importance that made everything very heavy. Because especially, you know, I aspired to, when my aspiring didn't lead to it, I was fucking bummed out, yeah? And the heaviness was extreme. This is all about allowing to be lighter as the action figure goes through its paces, yeah? So the self isn't taken so seriously. That's all. That's where the value of what we are is here, because here it can seem not to be here, yeah? And that seeming not to be here has given a lot of possibility to a lot of stuff that, in my view, is very contracting, let's say, yeah? So when this comes in here, without any intention, it's a leavening agent, because you travel lighter, because seeing you're not the self, you won't take it as seriously as you do when you take yourself to be the self, and therefore everything the self, comes in contact, there won't be a distribution of huge meaning to it. This is what's going to save me, this is what's going to damn me, all of that. All of the weight, all the distribution gets totally leveled, lighted out. And therefore you travel lighter as this event. And what do you want more in this event than travel lighter through it? Really? And I tell you, I know that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't know I wanted it, but I know it now because this is the experience, or the stability of it, is traveling lighter. This is what I wanted. This is what I've always wanted. Just this. Just to travel lighter. Now, the action figure and the mental state couldn't produce it. It's not going to be found in this place. It's going to come from ofness, and the ofness is what we are. That ofness will come in here, where we're appearing to be something else, and it'll allow that something else to travel lighter as the seemingly self. Yeah? So the greatest break isn't produced by you. It's from you. The greatest relief will not be had by you, it's from you. That's the peace, it's from.
Well, sorry, but how does that work? You gotta take yourself.
My only suggestion, seriously, is to listen to the talks.
Okay.
Really, because I think a lot of stuff, if you listen to the talks, that's the best of Paul H. It is. I have faith mind. I know it. You know, I've seen it. Listen to the talks, let this stuff come in. It will infect you to the point of infection it's supposed to do it. And I guarantee you, whatever level you are on, you will be traveling lighter. And what the fucking more do you want? You know? As an action figure. You have a drive for a goal that's become a goal in itself. Yeah? You want to be right about something. You've got to let that go, because see that it's not you. Because that is not going to appear if you're already holding an appearance of it in your head. It's not going to appear. Yeah? There's got to be a relinquishing. It's not a relinquishing, and then you'll say, who produces relinquishing? Just open yourself up. This is an operating table, this place. We're all, as this little action figure and not the action figure, we're on an operating table, yeah? Have faith, just don't get up and don't play doctor. And you'll meet the people you need to meet, you'll read the things you need to read, and you'll get the invitations you need to get so that you will dream yourself out of the dream. What do you think this event is? This is an event in the dream that can assist us dreaming ourselves out of the dream. But this is a dreamed event, yes? Now the feeling, I hope, isn't dreamt, but the thing is, this is a dreamed event, and this is the act of us dreaming ourselves out of the dream. Satsang is just that. We're a bunch of dreaming ourselves out of people, yeah? And so this is what's provided, and all the talks are provided to support these possibilities getting through the massive defense system, yeah? It's like the Death Star. They're shooting down everything. You know, we used it the other day. It's like spiritual sperm. We're sending tons of fucking sperm. We got to get to the egg. Millions of them won't make it, but one, all that it takes is one to get through, and then the conception of the idea, I can be free from it, occurs. And now you're looking at everything from the right direction. It's not so much from walking how many steps you take, it's the direction which is the most important, yes? So when the direction gets, and then you see things totally differently, facing a different way, yeah?
Well, I don't think there's anything I could do intentionally to do that.
No, you can't. So just do your life unintentionally. See what happens. Live an unintentional life. Really. Be led instead of leading. Be directed instead of directing. Yeah. See what it's like. Live an unintentional life. See what happens. Yeah. You will see some intentions move through you that you never had an intention about.
Yeah.
Really. You'll be used in a whole different way in the non-intentional life than you were intentionally trying to be used. You will. And it may work better for you. To me, it brings a lot more laughing and more smiles and just so many vignettes and fucking orchestrations of things, and you see the choreography of everything. It's a blast to be led. When you're leading, so much is left fucking behind.
Behind you.
You're just, but being led, you know, like, hey.
Well, that makes the result accidental. Or like,
I like his head,
Yeah.
his ears. I like those. What's happening, boy? Girl?